Welcome to another GitLab quarterly product release update. Here in August 2020, this is for Q3 of our fiscal 21. We're looking at the famous GitLab company handbook. We'll search for product release updates. And that will find a page that starts with materials for today's session. We will look roughly 1 quarter back to our most recent major release, 13.0. That shipped on May 22nd. And of course, all of our releases ship on the 22nd of every month, as GitLab has done for now more than 100 consecutive months. I am Brian Glanz, Product Marketing Manager. We will also take a look ahead, and I will also share plenty of links to more information. Also, in the name of housekeeping, this presentation is public. If you are not a GitLab team member, please know that we plan ambitiously. We have a transparent roadmap and wide open development process with a great track record, I should add, of delivering on our plans. But do note the distinction between plans and promises. In previous quarterly updates, we looked at a few of GitLab's holistic differentiators, including rapid innovation, and charted the growth of our product in terms of new features per monthly release. In releases 13.0 to 13.3, we added 55 new features in the premium tier and 33 new features in the ultimate tier, while maintaining a roughly 60-40 split between what we add for free users, that's the 60%, and new features added for paid users, that's the 40%. Of course, all improvements for free users are also available to paid users. When we look more broadly at all the significant features and improvements mentioned in our release blog posts, we doubled our pace of innovation in the year between 12.0 and 13.0. Now, as we tend to do with major versions, we hit a high watermark with 13.0. And then the question a quarter ago was, will we be able to sustain that new pace? With 13.0, it was the first time that we ever released more than 100 significant new features and improvements in one version. And I noted a quarter ago, I was doing the math out loud, that if someone were to be buying GitLab today and for the year ahead, they would not just be buying what's in the proverbial box at the moment. They would also, based on this trajectory, reasonably expect to get more than 1,000 new significant features and improvements over that year ahead, if we could sustain that pace. So based on these data, I'm very happy to report a quarter later, we have done so, and these are really nice round numbers, aren't they, for sharing. We now release regularly more than 100 significant new features and improvements every month, and in a year, yes, that's over 1,000. A quarter ago, I had a little bit of pushback on use of that term significant. That's the term we use in our release posts and in our process with regard to everything that we put into those monthly release blog posts. They do look pretty long. You could reasonably doubt, is everything in here significant enough to be in it, given the length of the post? So I brought a couple of data points related to that. GitLab Runner 13.2, you can see on the left in the release blog post, 2 new features, 3 new bug fixes. That's what was considered significant enough to mention. But if you check the changelog, which of course the release post links to, you'll find on the right 7 new features for Runner in 13.2, and that adds up to more than 70 improvements to GitLab Runner in that version. So fewer than 10% are considered significant enough to be in the release post. And just to double down on that, I looked also a few other places, brought one more example. Bug fixes in 13.2 on the left, you see in the release post, a couple dozen of them. Could look like a lot, but if you click, you find 272 bugs were fixed in 13.2. So again, we're only considering fewer than 10% of those improvements to be significant enough to be in the release post. You get the point. We're actually fairly conservative on what we consider significant and on what we put into those release posts. Now, how do you keep up? Well, my stock advice is read every release post. I know they're long. I'm not saying read every word. Focus on the introduction. That's 5 or 10 minutes of reading. It's highly values-based. It's all about the value added. It's not in detail how things work or the technical detail. It's written by a product marketing manager like myself as the messaging lead. And then also read the key features section. It's labeled as such. There are about a dozen of them. And PMMs also weigh in terms of editing things there. It's all about why customers will care that this has been added. Again, very little in the way of how this thing works. And there are links to docs that describe all of those things. So the release post is the single source of truth, but it's also really good reading for a very general audience and certainly for everybody listening to this presentation today. Now, a couple new tools related to product release updates have been really popular in recent QBRs and otherwise. And so I wanted to make sure I brought them here today. First, the release feature overview tool. This is available to the public. And as you can see here, I've filtered to show a few versions and then what's new in the ultimate tier. I could also filter by stage and by category. Incidentally, if you had seen this a few months ago, FYI, this is a new and improved version. Love this tool, very fast. For GitLab team members, we have a dashboard view of the same data. This tool helped me to actually prepare this update. I would only caution, not all features are created equal, right? And by that I mean they take different amounts of time to develop, different amounts of effort. They certainly have different impacts on customers' businesses. They get used in different amounts, all of those things and more. And I say that because you might leap to a conclusion based on like how many features are there per category in this release. For where GitLab has invested resources, I wouldn't do that. I would just use this tool for indicating where you should dig in, where it would be interesting to look. Now, in terms of all our holistic differentiators, not just the rapid innovation, but also our open core product, the fact that everyone can contribute, our collaborative and transparent customer experience. We noted in past quarterly updates that community contributions were trending steadily upward. And they really are right there at the heart of where these 3 holistic differentiators come together to add value to the product. Now, we were at about 100 per month during the version 10 product year in terms of community contributions merged per month. And then 150 during version 11 and 200 during version 12. That ended just a few months ago, earlier this year. That begs the question, should we expect community contributions to continue growing? It's a quarter later. What are we on trend for? Well, in actually GitLab 13.1, we saw a very high number, 358 community contributions merged just in that 1 month, by the way. Now at the bottom of this slide, you can see that number. It's just about 1,500. I'm going to call it that because it's all of the community MRs merged up through 13.2. That's over the previous 6 months. And of course, 1,500 divided by 6 is conveniently 250. Exactly on trend, right? Yes, we are in fact trending for 250 community MRs merged per release in version 13 to date. It's also nice in this slide to see some of the faces of these community contributors. There are thousands of them, and these are the MVPs from the past 6 releases. I should also mention, because I know in one case there's public information, it's totally safe to do so. Roger Meyer, one of these MVPs, works for a customer, Siemens, and that's not rare, right? Many of our contributions also are coming in from customers, so you can see the convergence of those holistic differentiators. And again, not just adding value to the product, incidentally, also adding value to our customer relationships and adding value to our community and to our relationship with them. Now, let's talk more directly about product, but as usual in these updates, let's talk product in terms of the value provided. What do I mean by that exactly? Let's start with 13.0. We all know it relatively well. Of course, it was a major release and it had appropriate hoopla associated, lots of videos, lots of information, press releases, the whole shebang. I share a look at the release post header for each version in these quarterly updates. A link to the post, of course, is the single source of truth. And then under the header, you see those bold purple phrases. Well, those are about the value added by the top features per each release. I go looking for those phrases in the post, copy paste them out here, or if they're not there, I write them myself. And you can just read them off. Improve the availability of Git repositories, manage more complex projects, and streamline your existing processes with GitLab 13.0. It makes a simple little punchy phrase there. In terms of our value framework for GitLab team members, I want to mention sometimes these are phrased like an after scenario condition. Other times they're positive business outcomes, or other times required capabilities. Deploy them as you will in your process. And then per each top feature, I also mentioned in parentheses there the tier it's available at. Now, 13.1, improve productivity and response time, track and improve code quality, and extend compliance and security with GitLab 13.1. It's kind of fun, right? Testing modified files first, excuse me, and at the premium tier there. I'm very excited about this one. It's about how for complex projects, sometimes testing or some testing can take so long that developers may be tempted not to wait. They effectively lose the advantage of that automation. So what's changed first, testing that lets you get results back faster for what's most likely to be relevant. And then in the bottom, that UI for container network policies is, of course, compliance related. Also in the ultimate tier for 13.1, I didn't quite make the bullet point here, but significant improvements to the security dashboard. Streamline project planning. Collaborate better for faster feedback and improve your overall performance and efficiency with GitLab 13.2. Some of them hang together better than others, but okay. The iterations feature there, that improves agile project management for paid users. And it's nice to see load performance testing coming in at the premium tier. That's a thing many need and would otherwise have been doing with another tool. So it strengthens our single application differentiator. Build secure software more easily and powerful workflows more efficiently while reducing context switching in ops with GitLab 13.3. Eagerly awaited there at the top, fuzz testing is here in 13.3. First with coverage guided fuzzing, of course in the ultimate tier, and also in ultimate on-demand DAST. That's for times when, say, you're not making a change, but still need to run those scans, maybe for compliance, for example. Now, as I do each quarter, I mapped just our top features. Those are the headline features, plus a few more that I kind of pick, almost made it into the headlines, per functional differentiator and per value driver. And if we mapped all our features like this, it's worth saying over a whole quarter, that's several hundred features, every box would have something in it, right? So what we're trying to do here is not quite that. We're actually just taking a quick look for value trends in our top features, our most important work. And in aggregate, you can see, if you take a minute and look, not any big surprises here. That's a good thing. Our investment themes for fiscal 21, everyone probably already knows, but have been enterprise readiness, doubling down on our advantages for SCM and CI, and then world-class security for DevSecOps was the focusing of that third investment theme. And as you can see, yes, our most important new work does reflect those themes. Now, these quarterly release updates also take a look into the future. And as we can all see here, and as we all know, the future is going to be awesome. The kickoff video for GitLab's next release is already available, and that's always the case at this point in the cycle. That timing is the same each month. So on the 18th, we kick off the next version, before releasing the next version on the 22nd. There are many kickoff videos for various areas of the product. I recommend for everyone watching this to watch just this main video. It's live streamed on YouTube, so it's available to the world when it's live. It's your best look ahead at the next version, in this case 13.4. The kickoff handbook page is also very useful. It lists everything we can expect at that time to be in the next version. It notes which features are coming in to a certain tier, if we know that, and then some of what we expect would be the highlights are also known. The direction page, also entirely public, this strategic section here, has another really important and recent update this quarter. If you have not already, do check out the new 3-year strategy section. You'll also find additional detail on our 3 investment themes and how they play out in prod in terms of the plans for this particular year. Yeah, I'm going to come back. This is a point where I want to mix things up in terms of this product release update. I'll come back with much more information about the future product. I just want to take a step back and reframe things, in this case, in terms of our 3 value drivers. Now, for GitLab's virtual commit, if you don't know, that's the online conference this August 26th. There's a product keynote, and it arranged its own description of recent and future updates going 6 months back and forward in terms of our 3 value drivers. I loved it, and it's a really nice way to look at things, including that different features which didn't look as important inside of one release rise to the top, especially when you look over more time and per value driver. So we're going to do that. I'm sharing an abbreviated version and something that's a little bit more value-based in terms of value added. So these are my own assessments of the contents. The product keynote is much more product-centered, naturally. Advanced search, right? So right there, we hadn't even mentioned it until now, but taken together, we have made many recent improvements to advanced search, and it certainly helps you to develop better products faster. We know many of our customers also use Jira, and developers in that case have lost some of that single app advantage by switching back and forth all the time to manage their work. GitLab believes in playing well with others and in putting our customers first. Put those 2 things together, and we have actually historically made significant improvements to this experience. We're making some just now, and we have many more planned in this area. In the past couple versions, there have been more than a dozen improvements to merge requests. And you might not have noticed that they're not all in the headlines necessarily. MRs are critical to a day in the life with GitLab. So while none of those rose to being in the headline, taken together, they very much align with this value driver, as do the performance improvements, which also, unlike features, generally don't make the headlines. But over the past quarter, we have improved the global performance. That's the total performance of GitLab by about 10%, and you can feel it. We actually also have a lot more planned here, and you can see that behind the link I'm sharing. I'll move similarly quickly through the following slides. I'm not going to read all of their contents. I'm providing them for your information on recent and upcoming features and improvements. Reducing security and compliance risks, another of the 3 value drivers. And recent improvements there include more easily managing vulnerabilities. Not only that, but as you can see below, that adds up to better visibility, specifically into risk. This slide refers again to that fuzz testing I'd mentioned, the updates there. We have much more planned. I'm sure this will show up in the look ahead section as we continue integrating technology from 2 recent acquisitions. The fuzz testing sessions in the DevSecOps track for commit, also very well worth your attention if you're interested in more on this. But a better container scanning experience and container host monitoring. Put these 2 together. Both add to our differentiator in being optimized for Kubernetes and just generally for supporting cloud native transformation, improving operational efficiency. Fair to say this is more important than ever, right? Now, as in any challenging times, regardless of whether it's a pandemic or just a general challenge to one's business, saving time and money is not just about optimization under these circumstances. It's become essential for IT and business resilience. So we've recently improved both incident management and alert management significantly and in ways that contribute to that operational efficiency. This is another good example in terms of being able to aggregate alerts where it's not just one feature, it's 5 features in one release, 5 in the next, and then over time it emerges as this really big value add. Now, automation of this nature to ensure access to Git repos, essential not just for pushing code, also for deployments, but in companies like GitLab, it's needed to support all the work that we do. And that's increasingly becoming the case inside of other companies. We can use the same value driver-based approach to take a look at the quarter ahead. And again, as we all know, it's going to be awesome. What's coming soon in GitLab that will help our customers deliver better products faster? I had mentioned iterations in 13.2, but we have a raft of related improvements coming soon. We are, in fact, working with Red Hat to support running GitLab on OpenShift. Awesome. Many recent improvements have helped to simplify complex pipelines for users, and more help is on the way in that regard. Lots of technical details on these. I know I'm breezing over them, but that's part of the point for this presentation. Get more detail out of the product keynote and some of the resources I'll point to incidentally at the end of this presentation. Reducing security and compliance risks. We can do that with GitLab because of our single app differentiator, that is being a single application for the entire DevOps lifecycle. We can do that in ways no one else can. Whole new capabilities emerge, and especially in security and compliance. End-to-end insights and visibility. We just can't get otherwise. We'll see a couple of examples of that here. We can enable customers to identify what to fix first, and thereby reducing security risk. We talked about the fuzz testing. In addition to the coverage-guided fuzz testing, or fuzzing, we will soon have REST API fuzz testing. Overall, this is helping to find vulnerabilities that cannot otherwise be found. Very well worth mentioning, at least if it happened today, and it's hard to predict the future, but likely when we get both of these forms of fuzzing integrated, we will be the only vendor offering both types of fuzz testing. And they find different things. They do, one's dynamic, one's static, relatively speaking. They do different things. Also really significant, other than that functional differentiator, is the more general functional differentiator of we're making fuzzing easy for developers to do. And if there's a reason it isn't typically done, it's because it's hard, not because it isn't valuable. It's highly valuable. Auto remediation should be, well, more automated. Trying to give you really brief summaries here. And we will soon have bots handling more of that for you. I mentioned how key on-demand DAST will be, and you can expect more in that vein. And then finally, we support cloud-native workflows for threat monitoring, as we do generally, all within your GitLab experience with iteration on our alerts dashboard. Improving operational efficiency. What do our teams have in store in that vein? Our customers want to rely on GitLab as their universal package manager to reduce costs and drive efficiency. And we have ambitious plans in this area, as you can see in the bullet points there, associated already with specific versions in the quarter ahead. Efficiency often requires better visibility, and as no one else can, in this case, GitLab can provide code coverage history across all of a group's projects. This one I read as GitLab's quality and support teams sharing more of what they've learned in terms of reference architectures for scale, sharing more with our customers. And finally, GitLab's upcoming incident management system. This will help establish on-call schedules, alert routing, and more in terms of the details. The value has to do with the fact that today's businesses are always on, and the expectations are that the software will be as well. Now, when things go wrong, GitLab can help your teams respond effectively, whereas previously they would have been turning to other tools. So that's our look ahead. A couple of more add-ons to this update. Once every month, GitLab team members in field receive a field flash newsletter in your email. I cannot encourage you highly enough to read that entire newsletter. It is full of gold, well-produced. The version you get in your email has GitLab internal details that team members won't want to miss. This being the quarterly product release update, I highlight here and note especially the What's New in GitLab section. It is also arranged by value drivers, so it's kind of like an appetizer for these quarterly updates. For those outside of GitLab or new to the company, there are also slightly scrubbed versions of the Field Flash newsletters. On this handbook page, there's also an archive of past newsletters, so check that out. Now, if you were looking for demos or more technical content, I mentioned earlier that I would get to this slide, and here it is. Visit Learn at GitLab, that's on the left on GitLab's website, for demos from our technical marketing team. That team has also recently joined forces with customer success for their skills exchange sessions, available on the GitLab Unfiltered YouTube channel. Incidentally, while looking around on GitLab Unfiltered, the YouTube channel, I found product managers doing walkthroughs of new features, support engineering meetings being streamed where they dig into everything new in each new release, and more. So if you are looking for a more technical or more product-oriented version of this quarterly release update, it's all out there, even if you're just looking for it in video form. But again, the single source of truth, including some little demo videos that are actually quite nice in the release blog posts that come out every month with the product on the 22nd. So thank you for joining this quarterly product release update. And you can find much more about what's new and upcoming in our product and from across the whole GitLab community by looking online for our first all virtual 24-hour, this time, 24-hour long user conference. It's called GitLab Commit. Previous editions have been held in major cities like London, New York, San Francisco. The theme of our latest and greatest GitLab Commit is "You Belong Here." I think that's a timely expression of our company mission that everyone can contribute. With that, thank you again.